Alright, hello everyone, it's Scott, and we're back with some gameplay and a deck tech here, and we're playing Rakdos Lizards or Glizzards, and what we'll be playing is a lot of new cards from Bloomburrow. Obviously, Lizards was one of the big creature types in the set, so let's talk about what Lizards we're going to be playing today. So first we've got Iridescent Vinelasher. Big thing here is it's got offspring, so you can copy it. And it also has landfall, so when a land comes into play, you get to deal damage to your opponent. We've also got 3 copies of Ravine Raider for another 1-drop in the deck. It's a 1/1 with menace, so it's got some evasiveness. We've got 4 copies of Higher Claw, which is a really important card for the deck for a red mana. When you attack with a lizard, it deals 1 damage to your opponent. And if you're just attacking with Higher Claw, when you attack with them, you can pay 1 in a red mana to give them a +1/+1 counter, but you can only do it 1 time on a turn. We also got 3 copies of Gev Scaled Scorch for a black and a red mana. You get a Lizard Mercenary, that's a legendary creature. That's a 3/2 with Ward of pay 2 life, and other creatures you control enter them with an additional +1/+1 counter on them for each opponent who lost life this turn. And Gev automatically activates that because whenever you cast a lizard spell, Gev Scaled Scorch deals 1 damage to target opponent. Next, we've got Fireglass Mentor for a black and a red mana. You get a Lizard Warlock, and it's a 2/1. And at the beginning of your second main phase, if an opponent lost life this turn, which is likely, then you get to exile the top 2 cards of your library, and you get to choose one of them. And until end of turn, you can play one of them. Also have Flamecache Gecko for 1 and a red mana. You get a Lizard Warlock. That's a 2/2. And when Flamecache Gecko enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, you get a black and a red mana. So it ramps for you. And you can pay 1 and a red mana, discard a card to draw a card. We've also got 4 copies of Valley Rotcaller for 1 and a black mana. You get a Squirrel Warlock. That's a 1/3 with menace, and whenever Valley Rotcaller attacks, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of other squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control. And moving into the 3-drop spot, we've got Thought-Stalker Warlock for 2 and a black mana. You get a Lizard Warlock, that's a 2/2, and it also has menace. And when Thought-Stalker Warlock enters, choose target opponent. If they lost life this turn, they reveal their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, and they discard a card. Otherwise, they simply discard a card. So you get to choose a card if they've lost life. Otherwise, they get to choose which card is going to be discarded. And most of the time, what you're going to see is Thought-Stalker Warlock comes into play. You've already done damage, and it's just going to get to choose the best card in your opponent's hand to get rid of. We also have 4 copies of Valley Flamecaller for 2 and a red mana. You get a Lizard Warlock. That's a 3/3. And if a lizard you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much damage +1 instead. So very nice ability here on Valley Rotcaller to really buff our team in any time it's doing damage. And we've got with Iridescent Vinelasher, with Higher Claw, and with Gev, a lot of ways to deal incidental damage. And because of that, that activation, instead of being for 1, it's now going to be for 2. Last creature in the deck is Laughing Jasper Flint for 1, a black and a red mana. You get a legendary creature, that's a Lizard Rogue. He's a 4/3. And creatures you control but don't own are mercenaries in addition to their other types. And at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library, where X is the number of outlaws you control. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. Alright, in our removal for the deck, we've got 4 copies of Go for the Throat. So that's really the only removal we have currently. And I think that's something we'll have to negotiate as we move forward with the deck. In the mana base, we've got 1 copy of Mudflat Village. You can spend black mana to cast a creature spell, or for 1 and a black mana, you can sacrifice or return a target lizard or squirrel from your graveyard to your hand. You got 6 copies, 6 swamps. You got 2 mountains, 4 Rockface Village. Again, red mana, in this case for casting creature spells, but you can tap it and pay 1 red mana, and you can have a target lizard get +1/+0, and it gains haste until the end of turn. And that can be relevant in the late game. We've got 4 copies of Blackcleave Cliffs, 4 copies of Sulfurous Springs, and 2 Thran Portals. But this could be any number of other things. It could be a Fabled Passage. It could be a Cavern of Souls. So I think, you know, we'll probably adjust those over time to get to something else. All right, in our sideboard, we've got 4 copies of Duress. We've got 2 copies of Anoint with Affliction to remove a card from play that's mana value 3 or less. We've got 4 copies of Obliterating Bolt to deal 4 damage to a creature or a planeswalker and then exile it. We've got 3 copies of Glistening Deluge for 1 and 2 black mana. It's a sorcery, and all creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn, and creatures that are green and or white get an additional -2/-2. So basically you're going to give -3/-3 to every white and green creature, and everything else out there -1. So this is really good against the Convoke deck. And we also have, finally, 2 copies of Brotherhood's End to just be able to do 3 damage to anything the opponent has, each creature and planeswalker. And the alternative there is you can destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. All right, so that's our deck. Let's get into some gameplay. All right, hello everyone. We're playing Rakdos Lizards or Rakdos Aggro in best of 3 on Arena in Platinum tier, and we're going to go play first. And not a really good hand, but we'll keep it. Having removal is nice, but not knowing what the opponent's going to play here, it's kind of hard on us with that excessive amount of removal in the opening hand. We're really looking for our 1-drops in the opening hand, and we didn't get any of those. But I am so concerned about going down to 6 cards with this deck, because it tends to lead us to have to go down to 5, because it usually the hand at 6 is unplayable. At least we had a couple of creatures here that we could do something with. Normally I don't do this, but I'm doing this purposely here. First we're going to get into their hand. Yeah, we got to get rid of Shealdred from them because we know they're going to be able to play that. They probably play their Invasion and we lose one of our Go for the Throats here. And then they're going to get the Season card, and that's not going to be great for us. But at least they're a couple turns away from that. Alright, I'm going to wait on that. The reason I'm waiting is this will do more damage immediately by having that second lizard on the field, because that'll activate Rock Caller one more time. And also what it does for us the next turn, if we get a land, then we can do 4 damage to the opponent, but the opponent's going to be able to kill that right away. So it looks like they're playing potentially a fairy deck here. And they're drawing incredibly well at this point. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the removal spell. Okay, we do get what we want. So we're going to be able to go ahead and get a second copy of that. So we do 4 damage, or 2 damage to them. And now we've got the ability to just go over here and go ahead and hit Liliana down to 1. So we're going to lose our Laughing Jasper Flint. But if we can get a land, we're in decent shape. Okay, we'll see. Yeah, they're going to do that first, and then they're going to cast their Season of the Lost, probably. Yeah. And each player is going to sacrifice. I'll sacrifice that one. All right, and yeah, we're probably going to be able to win on the next turn. All right, so based on what they're playing, they've got a lot of non-creature spells. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the Ravine Raiders and bring in 4 Duresses for that. I'm also going to cut down on a couple copies of Go for Throat, put a couple of Obliterating Bolts in. Actually, I want 3. So what I'm going to do is get rid of a Fireglass Mentor, and that way, if they do play Liliana, Obliterating Bolt can hit Liliana, and that may have some relevance for us. Now we're on the draw for game 2. All right, we've got to mulligan this one since we only got 1 land. Okay, this one we've got 2 lands, but they're 2 red sources that can't play anything. So I guess we're going down to 4 or to 5 here, excuse me, and we'll get rid of a swamp and a mountain in this situation. Okay, they play their fairy. Okay, I'm going to play my Hired Claw here. And this is so we can kind of start that damage wheel going for us. And if they kill it, they kill it. It looks like they're not going to. All right, so now we're going to play our Iridescent Vinelasher. Okay, we get the point of damage. We're going to go to an attack. Take 1. Okay, they play their Fairy Mastermind. We'll go ahead and Duress them. And we'll get their Spell Stutter. Okay, so we know they've got 3 lands and an unknown card. So decent position for us to be in. We'll see if they just attack or if they're going, yep, they're just going to go ahead and attack. Okay, which puts us in a pretty decent situation here. So we're going to go ahead and do a damage. And we'll go ahead and attack. Doing hopefully a couple more damage. And I'm going to go ahead and play Gev here, even though I could have played Thought-Stalker Warlock. But because I know that 2 of the 3 cards are land, I'd rather not do that. Just in case they drew a land or something that they couldn't play given the circumstances. And fortunately, they drew a Fairy Fencing, okay, which gets rid of Gev for us. But we got out of their hand, and again, they're at 10. Okay, now we got some options. Again, we'll go to attack. Okay. I'm going to try to get whatever's in their hand out of their hand. And we'll see if it's another land or not. Yep, it was a Season of Loss. That's outstanding for us to get rid of because they would have been able to play that next turn. Okay, both of us draw. Outstanding. Potentially here we've got lethal on this turn if we get a land, because we can double this. We can use the Offspring ability to do that, and that's what we're going to be able to do here. So we use the Offspring ability, play the land, do the 3 damage. Okay, we're going to go ahead and attack. That gets them down to 3. They've got a decent block that they can do, or I guess a couple of blocks that they can do. Okay, they take out one of those, but they're down to 2. And we do have an Obliterating Bolt for any creature that they bring into play. And they draw a card, lose a life, so they're at 1 now. So any land or attack wins the game, and they scoop it up. And that's the great thing about this deck is it can turn the corner very quickly. I mean, this is turn 6, and we had him on the ropes by turn 4, and we just got him there at the end. Rakdos aggro and best of 3 in standard, and we'll go ahead and take the play here, and we get a pretty decent draw out here. So we'll go ahead and keep this. We'll play our Blackcleave Cliffs and our Ravine Raider. Looks like the opponent is mulliganing. Okay, it's not Iridescent Vinelasher, but it's a decent opening card. It looks like we might be playing the... I'm going to play this. And it looks like we might be playing the Convoke deck. So I'm just going to get this down. And if we get a land, then we can go ahead and cast Valley Flamecaller. And it looks like they're gonna do that. So that's okay, because that means they're not building their board state. And since we can't do anything else, I'm just going to go ahead and kill this right now. Go ahead and get in a damage. Hopefully we get a land the next turn, and then Ravine Raider starts to do 2 damage to everything, and that'll help us out a little bit. If we go ahead, we can go ahead and play the Valley Flamecaller on that. Opponent got a really good draw out now, so we're going to have to do some things differently. I'm going to go ahead and just cast Gev here, and we'll hold the Ravine Raider here. And it's something we probably will trade with one of the Goblin tokens if they have it. Okay, he's going to pick the Novice Inspector up or the case up. Okay, they're going to pick the case up. That's interesting. Okay. All right, we have this. And I'm going to play this. And I'm playing the Thought-Stalker Warlock here to go ahead and get rid of the case so they can't kill something. And I'm okay with playing it patiently here. If they get a land here, then they can, certainly do some serious damage to us, which they do. So the question is, are they going to go with their, if they go with their Warleader's Call, or they're going to do Imminent Recruiter? They're going to do Warleader's Call to make everything a 2/2. All right, we'll just go ahead and start taking one out at a time, and that's okay. We're good. And all right, we get a land here. I'm going to put a Valley Flamecaller in play, do a damage, and go ahead and get them down to 8. Now, on this turn, I assume they're going to play Imminent Recruiter here. Yeah. So we'll have to take out 2 of theirs on this one. Oh, actually, they don't play Imminent Recruiter. They go ahead and play the Sanguine Evangelist, excuse me. And that actually puts us in a pretty decent position, because I'm going to go ahead and play another Valley Caller, and we're going to go all in here. And if anything gets through, we're in really good shape. And they're going to win on the next turn anyways, so we might as well go for it and try to take out a lot of their stuff here. And then maybe we get in a situation where they can't win on the next turn. Okay, if they don't block anything else, this will be a victory, because both of those Flame Callers will do 1 additional damage. So they're really required to block with 1 more thing. Okay, they double block that, and we'll actually kill both of those. Okay, so they're going to go down to 3, and we'll put our Iridescent Vinelasher down, so we have another blocker. But unfortunately, they've got 5 in the air, so we're not going to be able to beat them. And that's unfortunate. Really just unlucky situation there for us. We'll just put in our Glistening Deluges, and those will help us out quite a bit. And we'll put in our Brotherhood's End. because I'd rather go ahead and we'll get rid of the Ravine Raiders there. And we'll take out one of our Go for the Throats. And the point here is that, for us, it's better to go ahead and have things that are going to wipe out the opponent's board on the other side than, having a spot removal spell. All right, we'll go ahead and keep this. We'll get Higher Claws down. They're going to be really important for us because they're going to push damage in the game early. And hopefully we can get to that third land, which will help us hopefully start taking cards out of their hand. Okay, they have a Warden here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and play the other Higher Claw. And the reason for that is we get the 2 activations. So even if this gets blocked, it doesn't matter. We get automatically 2 damage through. Next turn we can take out something with the Go for the Throat, or if we're lucky, we can go ahead and use the Thought-Stalker Warlock to go ahead and take something out. Okay, so they're doing this. So they've got 3, and we'll see if they choose not to. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and get our 2 damage in. And then we do have the ability to activate one of the claws. And I'm just going to go ahead and activate this. And we'll give it +1/+1. Take out their Warden of the Inner Sky. And that puts us in a pretty decent spot. Hopefully we can get that third land now. Opponent was able to get it, but if we can get that third land, we can now really start to push some damage. Okay, so now they're going to be 2 2s. All right, we get our third land. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to get 2 in automatically, and then depending on how they block, we'll make additional choices. Okay, opponent decides not to block us, so that means we're going to go with our Thought-Stalker Warlock, so we can choose to get rid of one of their cards. Okay, and that's an easy one for us. We get rid of their Knight Errant of Eos. Okay, and then we'll see if they draw a creature card here or not, or something else. And then next turn, if we get a land, we can play Gev and a Go for the Throat. If we don't, then we can just play Laughing Jasper Flint, and then we'll be starting to pull cards from the top of their deck every turn. But this is the power of those Higher Claws. It's automatically basically 2 damage a turn when you have those in play. All right, opponent decides to scoop it up, and we'll go ahead and keep the deck as it is, and we'll go ahead and go to game 3. Okay, we'll have to mulligan, unfortunately, because we don't have 2 lands. All right, we've got 2 lands now. Unfortunately, it's really not a good hand, but I don't want to go down to 5, because if I go down to 5, we probably just automatically lose. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our Valley Flamecaller, because we've got 2 of them, and hopefully we'll draw into that third land, and by turn 3 we can start doing things. Okay, play our Higher Claw again. And that helps us also because their Yodian frontliner can't attack through it, so that protects us a little bit. Okay, it looks like they've got... My assumption is they're going to flash in the 2/1/1, so I'm just going to say go here. Yep, and they absolutely do Resolute Reinforcements as anticipated, and we'll go from there. So hopefully we can get the third land here, and the third land then allows us to do a lot in the game. Okay, they bring in their Knight Errant of Eos. So that's unfortunately for us, that's a really terrible development, because they're going to be able to they get 2 extra cards out of that, and we don't have any direct removal, so that really puts us in a bind here. Part of me wants to just wipe out the board. But I think I'm going to do this instead and get in their hand and see if they've got something better. Yeah, they do. They got and so good decision by me. We get rid of Emidane's Recruiter. None of their attacks are particularly good except for Knight Errant of Eos, so we can survive that without too much difficulty. And then on the next turn, we can go ahead and either attack with everything and then Brotherhood's End, or we can go ahead and maybe get our Valley Flamecaller down, and that can do some extra damage for us. Okay, playing the Warden. We'll see if they use the Warden's ability to make it a 2/3, or actually they could do it twice and make it a 3/4. Yeah, okay. And that actually hurts us pretty significantly, because that means we can't kill Warden on a attack using Brotherhood's End. We can't get them all. We can't take them all out. So had I activated it last turn instead, it would have been a better overall result for us than this. All right, so we're at 16. I'm really concerned that they can win on the next turn, but I'm going to go ahead with the Valley Flamecaller here. And we'll attack and get them down to around, okay, get them down to 9. Okay, and Valley Flamecaller can be a decent blocker, and it's going to be, if they get Emidane's Recruiter here, it's going to be real easy for them to win the game, but if they don't, then potentially we've got something on the swing back. Okay, so they're going to do 5. We'll block this to kill it. Because they don't typically have pump spells in their hands. Okay, they're going to bring it back. Probably go ahead and pump up Warden one more time. No, they're going to do their Gleeful Demolition. So that's even worse for us, unfortunately. Alright, we do get this activation. And I'm going to go ahead and attack here. And I'm attacking because I'm going to go ahead and use Brotherhood's End, because I've got to wipe out as much as I can on the turn. And unfortunately, I think they probably win regardless. Unfortunately for us. Well, it looks like they're actually going to do a lot of the work for us. And why couldn't I do that again? Wait a minute. Oh, I can only do it once a turn. Okay. I'm going to bring this in, so that actually will be able to block against all the lesser stuff. And then a land and Rock Collar are simply attacking, puts us in a pretty good spot. Okay, if they're going to just attack with that, then we can win the game on the next turn. Okay. Do a damage. Yeah, and this turned out really well for us. They made some kind of interesting choices, and that allowed us to win the game. But this is the power of this deck, where, you know, we kind of like, we were behind and then they made a decision to attack with a lot of stuff and go ahead and activate their Warden a couple times, and that left them vulnerable to an attack. And because we had the Valley Flamecaller in play, because we had the Valley Flamecaller in play, that really helped us out, because that did 1 additional damage for everything that we were doing. So when we had the Iridescent Vinelasher activation, when we had the Higher Claw activation, that does 2 damage instead of 1. And that was really important to, in the end, winning the game. All right, we're back for our post-game wrap. So I went 5-2 with the deck, and I felt like in very few instances was I totally out of a game. And usually that was when I wasn't able to get 1 and 2 drops into play quickly and early in the game. But it performed really well. It beat 2 Dimir decks. It was 1-1 against the Convoke deck. It lost to another Rakdos deck, but that was really playing, you know, a mid-range, you know, control deck. That one was. We beat green, okay, and then we also beat another deck there as well. So overall, I'm really happy with where the deck is. I think that I might go ahead and make some changes to it and get rid of those Ravine Raiders. I think removal makes more sense there, given where the format is right now. The 3 extra creatures probably doesn't help us a whole lot. And that additional removal probably helps us more in the long run. So I think that's where I'm headed with the deck. But 5-2, very good record. I think it's definitely a playable deck, and I think it has a chance to be a competitive deck in Standard. All right, so thanks for staying to the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe and do all the YouTube stuff, and I will see you in the next video.